No importa dónde vivas, la vida del océano depende de ti. Para ayudar a proteger nuestro océano, recicla y desecha tu basura apropiadamente. Para saber lo que puedes hacer, visita keepoceansclean.org.
¿Qué tal? Welcome to Generacion Latina. Here your host, Carolina Peña, and I am so thrilled for today's show. I think it's probably one of the most special shows that we've done in over the past 7 years that we've been here on air, because today's guest is somebody really, really great. We have Ernie G, and if you've heard of him, or if you haven't, well, this is your chance to get to know him a little better. Also, if you've ever been to the Hispanic Youth Institute, the Hispanic Youth Symposium, you probably would know who he is. So stay tuned. We're going to get to know Ernie G and probably get a few laughs from him as well. Ernie G, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, so special. I feel so special. That's cool.
Ernie G, hi. You know what? It's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
A lot of students, Hispanic high school students, recognize your face, know your name, but many others don't. And we're here to get to know you a little better. Now, you tell us a little bit about you and who you are.
Well, my name is Ernie G. I'm an empowerment comedian from Los Angeles. So I've been doing comedy for about 14 years now. And for the past 5 years, I've been doing something called empowerment comedy, which is comedy with an inspirational message. So I've been traveling all over the country on behalf of the Hispanic College Fund, who flies me all over the country to be the keynote speaker at Hispanic Youth Symposia at over 8 colleges and universities in Maryland, Virginia, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and throughout California. So it's a privilege and an honor to do comedy, but to do comedy that inspires young Latino minds to get themselves into college. It's a blessing.
You know, it's really unique. Not that many other comedians are out there talking to kids. You know, I mean, the audience is completely different for you know, just the standard of the industry, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And why empowerment comedy?
My whole life I wanted to be a comedian since I was a little kid. My uncle was a child actor in TV shows and stuff, and he was one of my biggest inspirations. He came out on shows like Bonanza and Gunsmoke, all these old shows that your parents probably used to watch. And he was a kid actor, and he would have this ability, like when I was a child, when my family was going crazy fighting and stuff, you know, when your family gets together and your Dio gets drunk and your grandma starts yelling at somebody, and my uncle would go, okay, everyone, listen, I have a joke. And he would tell a joke, and then he'd say the punchline. You know how Latinos tell jokes? Esto pasó y la otra cosa, y luego paz. And everyone, they'd be cracking up.
Yeah.
And as a 10-year-old, I'd be watching my tia and my cousin who were just fighting. They'd stop and be laughing. I was like, you guys were just fighting and now we're laughing. So my tio has this beautiful power to make people laugh. So I want to do that. I want to learn how to do that. So I started doing comedy, and about 7-8 years into my comedy career, I realized that just making people laugh in comedy clubs wasn't fulfilling enough for me. I wanted to work with kids. I've always, my heart has always been making a difference for youth. So I started throwing empowering messages into my comedy routine. And a lot of comedians frowned upon it. They're like, dude, nobody comes to a comedy club to be inspired. They came to laugh, dude. Tell a joke. And then I realized, you know what? Maybe I need to go to where the people really want to laugh and be inspired. So I started speaking at schools. And a few years ago, I did some commercials to get Latino high school students excited about college in California. And where my commercials ran, the community college had a 16% increase in Latino registrations.
Wow.
Yeah, so I spoke at that school, and I spoke at several different schools, and I was at Fresno State University, where the Hispanic College Fund in DC has a Hispanic Youth Symposium in California. They met me, they're like, who is this guy? We gotta fly him out. So I flew out to DC, and I performed at the gala, which you were the MC of the gala last year. I performed at it about 4 years ago, and they said, we love what you do, we'd love you to come work with us. And now I'm the national spokesperson for the Hispanic College Fund. So it's such a blessing to be able to go across the country and make our kids laugh.
It is, and I congratulate you. And you know, when I've sat, you know, through your comedy several times now, and I just think every time I listen to you, there's something that gets me. You know, there's something that I hear in your comedy. Yes, I'm laughing, but at the same time, I'm thinking about, you know, who am I really?
Yeah.
It makes me question, you know, my identity. It makes me believe in myself and what I can do for my community. And I think that your work is just really, really powerful. It's not just the comedy, but it's like, you know, really, let's get real here, you know? All things aside, put the stereotypes aside, who are we going to be? What are we going to make out of our community?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's one of the most powerful things about your comedy. So
yeah, one of the things I talk to the students about, one of the most powerful messages I leave with the students is, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Right.
If it is to be, it is up to me. And the students, they hear that and they're like, whoa. Because a lot of times we feel like, oh, it's the teachers, or it's the school, or it's society, or...
Yeah.
And we point the finger outward. Whenever you're pointing the finger outward, there's always 3 fingers pointing right back at you, right? So if it is to be, it is up to me, and the students feel empowered by that. And then another one of my messages, which I love to talk about, is that no matter how much education Latinos have, if we grew up in El Barrio, we'll always have a little ghetto inside of us, right?
Yeah.
And people were like half the kids used to go, yeah, I got ghetto in me, and the other half are like, no, stupid dumb, I'm not ghetto. and what, the reason that we do that is because when we hear that word ghetto, we automatically associate certain negative stereotypes to that word. And my whole thing is, you know, I ask the students, why is it that we automatically associate negativity to that word ghetto? And my message is, if I'm from what people consider to be the ghetto, if that's where I'm from, and I'm a good person, if I grew up in El Barrio, and I'm a good person, and I come from a good family, and I go to college, and I graduate from college, and now I'm making a positive impact on my community, then how can the ghetto be bad? And maybe, just maybe, we need to reevaluate the way we use these words to describe ourselves and describe our communities, and maybe take pride in the fact that we have a little ghetto in us. So I tell the kids, I'm proud of the fact that I'm a beautiful, powerful, educated Latino man who has a little ghetto in him. And the kids are like, yeah, me too, me too. And so I challenge students to actually challenge the definitions for the words that we use to describe ourselves, and ultimately you get to decide who you are in the world. You know, I perform for a lot of dream students, which are students who, you know, according to some people are illegal, according to other people are undocumented, and either one of those words, undocumented, illegal, I mean, what does that mean? Yeah. What do those words mean? Those are labels that are put on these kids, who then they internalize these labels, and then it forms this kind of like self-imposed kind of racism and self-imposed stereotyping. And I tell these kids, don't subscribe to any of these labels. If you fit into that category where you were born in another country but grew up here, call yourself a dream student. The DREAM Act is there to support dream students who have a dream of getting their education.
Right.
A lot of times people just clump all immigrants into one category. But most of the dream students that I know are beautiful, powerful, educated kids getting 3.0s and above, a lot of them. And they were born in another country but have been here for 10, 12, 15, most of their lives. A lot of these kids don't even speak Spanish. And they are, you know, by American standards, are illegal immigrants, but they don't know anything about their native countries.
For all they know, they're American.
They are as American as apple pie. So
yeah.
I'm real passionate about that because you know, I've met some of the most stellar human beings, the most beautiful, educated kids who just happen to be born in Guatemala or Salvador or Mexico. And, you know, their dream is to be educated. And there's so many kids who were born here, who have the opportunities that these kids don't have, that don't take advantage of the educational system. And so there's a scholarship fund, actually. Washington State University named a scholarship fund in my name, oddly enough, a few years ago. I performed at Washington State for a bunch of high school kids who went back to their high schools and said, Ernie G, this guy's great. So I performed at a bunch of high schools in the state of Washington. So Washington State University, all those kids are now sophomores and juniors. So they named an Ernie G scholarship fund in my name. So 2 freshmen at Washington State got the Ernie G scholarship. So then I started thinking, man, maybe I should start raising some money for some dream students. So for my birthday bash this year, instead of just having a big comedy show, which I usually do, I did the first ever Ernie G's birthday bash and Dream Act comedy jam.
Wow.
So we had a few hundred people show up and we raised thousands of bucks. And so I was able to give out some scholarships to some dream students. So I'm going to be doing a big Dream Act scholarship gala here in the DC area. And when that happens, I'll make sure and put it on your website.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm trying to raise money for dream students, because as we know, dream students don't get the federal aid that they need to get themselves into college.
That's right, they don't. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you know, a lot of them that you know are incredibly accomplished. They're at the top, you know, they're valedictorians. I mean, they really are leaders in the community, and unfortunately, their dreams are blocked, right, due to legislation that has not passed. Now, what about the students that aren't quite as, they don't have the ganas, right? Yeah. What do we tell them? I mean, because really, they feel like, okay, what if they go to college, but then they can't really afford a lot of it. It's going to take them years. They have to work. They don't, you know, their dreams are really getting stifled. Yeah. What do you tell them?
Well, I'm going to look right at them because I know there's a lot of you out there who don't see yourself as leaders. And it's very rare that we see Latinos who are educated and in these powerful positions. So I think it's a blessing for me and people like you. And through the Hispanic College Fund, we meet these amazing Hispanic heroes who actually spend time with the students and have them see, oh, wow, you went to my school. Oh, wow, you're from Salvador. Oh, wow, you're from Mexico, and you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you own your own business. There are way more Latino millionaires out there than we ever think about. You know, when we think of the word Latino or Hispanic, for some reason, a lot of people just think of a lot of the problems that we're having, because that's all that gets accentuated, is the gang problems or the drug problems or the immigration problem. But when I think of Latinos, I think of beautiful, powerful, educated people that are making a difference in our community. And you guys need to understand that there are so many more of us, Carolinas and Ernie G's in the world, than there are of a lot of these kids who are having issues. So nobody can make you feel anything without your permission. Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel anything without your permission. So anytime anyone tries to suppress your self-image, you get to choose, am I going to let this person influence me, or am I going to think of Carolina Peña and Ernie G and all these wonderful people that I've met? And ultimately, if it is to be, it is up to me. You get to decide who you get to be in the world. And I love being a beautiful, powerful, educated Latino man who has a little ghetto in him. I'm proud of that fact. You know, when I go to a taqueria and order a taco, I don't order 4 tacos. I order 2 tacos, and then I separate the tortillas and make 4 tacos, right? Which is one of my jokes. Or when I run out of shampoo, do I throw the bottle away? No. I pour the water inside, shake it, pour it on my... You do that too, right? Yeah. So my point is, we need to celebrate some of these silly things that we do and embrace the ghetto within.
Absolutely right. You know, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that little ghetto in you. I know, you know, I want to get to know a little bit more about just where you come from, what's the G stand for, you know, all of that. I know your family history and a lot of your experiences growing up have made you who you are, you know. You are the total sum of your experiences. Yep. Like one of my mentors always says, and I think we want to bring that out, you know, because I think a lot of us are still in that, you know, in that path, in making who we are, and I think we have that choice. It's really in our power. Are we going to choose experiences? Are we going to choose the friends that are going to make who we are? Yeah. So let's continue to talk a little bit more about that, and also how to find you on Facebook, because I know you have a lot of friends, about 5,000?
Too many.
Too many.
But I want more,
Absolutely. So we will be right back. Please stay with us. And also, don't forget to always check us out on generacionlatina.org.
Es fácil darse cuenta si has bebido demasiado. Pero ¿te darías cuenta si es tan solo un trago de más? Manejar entonado es manejar borracho.
And welcome back to Generacion Latina. And as I mentioned before, our super duper special guest here with us today, Ernie G, is going to tell us a little more about where he comes from. So you're born and raised in LA, right?
Born and crazed in the City of Angels. Yeah. I was born in LA, California, and my mom came over here from Mexico when she was 9 years old, and she grew up in LA and had me there. And it's weird, you know, I come out here and I know there's some like gang problems and stuff with like the Salvadoran gangs and some of the African American gangs, and it's weird. It's like, what is that all about? You know, I grew up around gangs. I grew up around, you know, the Gangland on History Channel. They talk about the most notorious of the LA gangs, the Avenues from Highland Park. I'm like, that's where I grew up, right? And my mom hung out with those guys. And when you grow up around gangs, it kind of defines your perspective. And a lot of times, you know, we did a Hispanic Youth Symposium at UCLA with students from Roosevelt High School. And one of the kids said, when you grow up around that, you just kind of expect that that's how life is going to be.
Right.
You just expect things to be that way. You know, you expect to kind of be like a loser in life. You look around you, all you see is failure. Then you go to the Hispanic Youth Symposium, and all you see around you is success. And he goes, what do I want to do? Be a success or be a failure? I want to be a success. And it's a beautiful perspective, because that kid grew up around gangs, and all he ever sees around him is failure. And for me, you know, I was really blessed in that my mom always tried to protect me from all of that.
Yeah.
My mom, you know, she had me when she was young, so she didn't really get to go to college, and her dream was for me to get myself into college. So when I graduated from Loyola Marymount University, I went to Loyola Marymount University.
Yep.
I had my degree in psychology, a minor in Chicano studies. When I graduated, it was a fulfillment of not only my dream, but my mom's dream. And that's one of the challenges I talk about.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the first person in my family to go to college.
Yeah.
But while I was in college, a lot of bad things happened, and I just started, you know, being influenced by the wrong kind of people, and I got kicked out of college. So I
Right.
became the first person in my family to go to college, to becoming another Latino statistic, a dropout. And it was devastating for me. When I got kicked out, I went back home, and my mom was like furious with me. She said, what happened? And I was like, they kicked me out. And she said, no, go back, go back. My mom's biggest complaint to this day was they let me graduate from an American high school, and I couldn't even read.
That was her experience?
That was my mom's experience. When she came over here from Mexico when she was 9, rather than work with her or teach her ESOL classes or teach her the language, they just let her work in the cafeteria and in the library. And she graduated from high school with work units instead of with an education, and she couldn't even read. So you're going to go to college. So when I go to Loyola Marymount, first person in my family to go to college, and then I get kicked out, it was devastating. But I speak about this in my act when I perform for the students, but I had a tia that I was really close to, and she died. And when she died, I spoke at her funeral. And at her funeral, I discovered this gift for being able to move people with my words. And that's when I committed. I said, I'm going to go back to college in honor of my tia. And on June 14th, I got my degree, and I looked out to the audience. I said, Mom, I did it. And so that feeling of being able to graduate from college is something that I want to impart to the students. There's a lot of kids out there who are going through issues, and we've gone through them. You and I know the exact feeling. You've shared your story before. And you know, just because you get kicked out of school or you're not able to finish your education doesn't mean that you can't get back in.
Exactly.
And so I got back in and graduated. And you know, when you don't graduate, when you don't fulfill your dream, when you don't do that thing that you know God put you on the planet to do, you feel like a failure. I remember thinking, oh, I'm such a loser when I got kicked out of college.
Because that was your dream school, right?
It was my dream school, and to, not only my dream, but my mom's dream to get my education. So I would drive by and looking at it going, oh, I'm such a loser. But the day I graduated, I was like, yes, I'm not a loser. I'm not a loser. It's an amazing feeling to feel that way.
Yeah.
And so now I get to tell students, you get to choose. You get to choose. It's not about somebody telling you who you are. Who do you say you are? And I say I'm a beautiful, powerful, educated Latino man who has a little ghetto in him, right? That's who I am.
That's true. And what would you say? I mean, I know you talked a lot about those experiences that have made you who you are. What is a defining experience for you?
The defining moment was getting kicked out of college.
Yeah.
And
it's a wake-up call.
It was a total wake-up call. And then driving by the campus and looking and just going, God, I'm a loser. And then, but really what happened was when I committed to getting back into college, I went to a couple different community colleges, and I took 8 classes and got 8 A's, went back to college, and I said, can I come back? And they looked at my records, and they said, after reviewing your academic record, we seriously suggest you pursue your academic endeavors elsewhere. After getting 8 A's and trying to come back, they said, you can't come here. And I remember I looked at the dean of my college, and I said, ma'am, no offense, but nothing's stopping me from coming back here. I'm going to come back to the school and graduate. And she just looked at me like, okay. But one of the messages I tell the students is when you commit to something, when you say it shall be, the universe conspires to support you, and all these random things start happening to help you. And I got a random phone call from the dean of my psychology department at Loyola Marymount, Dr. Renee Harang. She said, sweetheart, I heard you're wanting to come back to college, and I'm going to help you. And I was like, how did you hear about this? And so she helped me take enough classes to get myself back into college. And the day I graduated was due to her and a lot of people that helped me out to get back into school. So it was a beautiful thing. When you commit, when you say it shall be, I am going to go to college, things happen to support you in that commitment. It's a beautiful feeling.
Right. The question I'm going to ask you now is maybe too common, but why go to college?
Why go to college?
Why?
Message I tell the students is to go to college, you have to go to college to educate yourself, to get a bigger perspective, to expand who you are in the world. If you just go to high school and work for the rest of your life, or if you go to college and work for, you will have such an expanded awareness of who you are. And one of the messages I tell the students is the day you graduate from college, you're not only graduating for you, but you alter, you transform the perception that people have of your community. Like for instance, you and I, we're Latinas, Latinos. So people have a perspective on who we are. When you say you're Latina, people kind of say, oh, you're that kind of person. But when you graduate from college and you say, I went to Loyola Marymount, I went to the University of Maryland, you instantly transform the way people view you. You go, oh, wow, you did? And you transform the way that they see not only you, but the entire Latino community.
Exactly.
And I love messing people's boxes up. People try to put us in boxes. Oh, you're that kind of person. Oh, you're that kind of person. When they say I'm a Mexican, American, Puerto Rican, Russian, and French Catholic Jew, and I'm educated, and I have a little ghetto in me, people were like, whoa, I don't know where to put you. People love to put you in boxes.
But you are America.
Exactly.
You know?
I am America. That's one of my jokes too. I am this country. But the thing I take the most pride in is, yes, being able to do what I love. But when I see the students, go back into their high schools and be leaders. You know, like last night we had dinner with a bunch of alumni from the Hispanic College Fund. You know, kids like Stefania from Blair High School, and kids like
Marcelo
Dalia,
from Montgomery College, Jonathan J. Screed.
Jonathan, what's up? Sophia from Blake High School, and Andrea from Blake High School. There's just kids all over the place. And I know a lot of you are going, he didn't say my name, but it's beautiful to see you guys go back into your high schools and be leaders. When you're able to make a difference in a kid's mind so that they shift who they see themselves as, and then they go back into their communities, and then they become the leaders of those schools, man, it is such a blessing. I have tons of friends on Facebook. I have too many friends that I have to open a fan page. So if there's anybody out there that has a pending request, I have 500 pending requests that I can't say yes to yet. But I'm going to open a fan page, and when I get all those kids, they send me emails. I had a kid just send me an email. She said, I love sports, but I hate